That's
Hold on one second.
you got a special guest there.
Hey, Giselle, hold on 1 second. Let me call you back.
Special guest Giselle Santo.
If anybody doesn't have a kid's Apple Watch, here's another great tidbit for you. Get your kid an Apple Watch. They now have direct connection to you
Walkie-talkie.
at any point in time, walkie-talkie style.
Even during a podcast.
Even during the podcast.
I took mine off for that exact purpose.
Oh, wow, you're smart like that.
I'm starting to grow up a little bit.
Okay, well done.
That's good.
We live below the fold. We live underneath those incredible brands.
What is the vision? Right? So like there's a story, but then it's like, where are you trying to go? If it's compelling enough, then you start to get people to believe in it. Rocking?
We're rocking.
Cool.
All right.
What episode is this?
Another request?
Yeah. What episode is this? Maybe,
maybe
60, 50? I don't know.
70? 46. Okay, wow. Michelle says episode 46. That's not bad.
Hey, we got past 2 or 3.
Yeah, we got a comment. Yeah.
So we have what? Six fans?
6 fans and 7 comments. So we're off to the running.
Hey, we get 1 comment. That means someone's listening, and we're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah,
that's good.
So today's focus comes from comments and lots of inbounds. So this is more for like newer brands. If you're a legend already, okay, you might be able to look past this one a little bit. We're going to tell you some things that you may already know. But if you plan to build a legendary brand, we're going to talk about some tactics. And we'll try to go pretty deep with those tactics because, well, that's what the comment liked, right? We go deep on it.
Yep.
So if you're just getting started, we're going to break this up as hopefully as simple as possible. But if you're getting in, so let's say you have a great community. We talked about that a lot. Mm-hmm. How do you build a community? Gaining an audience, that on its own is very hard. But then you step into this arena, which is now I want to monetize that audience and I want to build a product, and a product hopefully that lasts forever. Unlike an AdSense or something like that where you get your penny and then it's gone. A product, a physical product, hopefully a piece of merchandise, a collectible, bag, you name it, that product could live on forever and ever. Yep. So we're going to talk about 2 very tactical, different, ways to look at it. And we're going to focus on utilizing a core style. So that's, technical term, I guess you say, like utilizing a blank or going completely custom. Mm-hmm. And, as we, did some, more research outside of what we do every single day, I don't know if there's like a right answer, right? Like there's not like, always go this way or that way. You really got to consider both sides.
There isn't, one size doesn't fit all. A lot has to do with the speed to market, though, too. A lot we're going to talk about on the custom side doesn't happen overnight. It's not one day. It's not 2 days. So you really have to plan ahead of some of that stuff. So, there's no right or wrong for sure, but time definitely has something to say about it. But I'm back to like the legendary brand thing. Like if you're not starting off thinking you're going to create a legendary brand, you probably won't ever, right? Yeah. So you got to at least start thinking you're going to. That's the path. That's the North Star.
Yep. You got to at least have the grit to think that way.
At least right? Want to.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. Let's get into it.
Yeah. Why don't you start with Carla? Talk about what are some of the advantages of starting with a core style. Think these are probably household names if you've been doing this for a very long time. But we want to focus on the brands that are just kind of getting started. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about like a Gildan, a American Apparel, an AS Color, and on and on. These are incredible mills that are making products every single day, and they are built to be, we'll call, private labeled. Right. Why don't you talk about what are the advantages on starting with a core style?
Yeah, I mean, a core style, it's trusted already, right? It's out there. A lot of the things that we do, printing on things, you have to go through a lot of trial and error to make sure that
Yep.
the color doesn't start to shift on you. And we've all been down, some horrible conversations when you see color and ink starting to shift. So when you're working on some of those evergreen type of products, they've already done that testing. It's out there. You can trust it. You know that it's been trusted by many other brands, and it's out there. So a little bit of the risk is taken out
Yep.
of that, which is kind of nice. So I'd say that's a good one. A lot of those brands are carried in bulk, so you're getting really good pricing on that.
Yep.
That's another thing is like pricing. I don't know. We mentioned Gildan. I mean, who knows how many units they?
Billions.
Billions. Yeah,
Billions of
there's
units.
so many, and that's why you pay the price for a Gildan.
Yep.
Nice product. It's still a good product.
Good product.
Probably 80% of what we do for tour is a Gildan product,
Yep.
right? So that's not going anywhere. But the price point's there because of how much volume they make, how
Yep.
much volume they're moving. So those two come to the top of my head right now. Those are two powerful reasons why.
Yeah. I would say if you're just getting started, you're just building a brand, and we're not just talking about clothing lines. You may have a coffee brand and you want to monetize merchandise. Choosing a blank has a ton of value. I can even think back of how many times we did a custom piece and the silhouette just was not right.
Yeah.
That was, the one sleeve was all the way up here and the other sleeve is all the way down here, and like if you don't get the actual silhouette correct, then you could be in big trouble. A blank manufacturer is always going to have that.
that's
Hold on one second.
You got a special guest there.
Hey, Giselle, hold on 1 second. Let me call you back.
Special guest Giselle Santo.
If anybody doesn't have a kid's Apple Watch, here's another great tidbit for you. Get your kid an Apple Watch. They now have direct connection to you
Walkie-talkie.
at any point in time, walkie-talkie style.
Even during a podcast.
Even during the podcast.
I took mine off for that exact purpose.
Oh, wow, you're smart like that.
I'm starting to grow up a little bit.
Okay, well done.
That's good.
So the other point I wanted to make was that when a company is building products as a blank to be decorated, they are doing things that are highly in consideration of being printed on, such as a cotton face on a hoodie. I think that was like, one of the most unsung heroes ever. Is the cost of cotton is so much higher than polyester. So a big 11-ounce fleece is usually going to have some type of a blend, like a 50-50 or something like that. But if you put a cotton face on it, you could discharge it, you could print it beautifully, you don't have to use a blocker base, on and on and on it goes. So when you utilize like a blank, you have the ability to take advantage of all of the great things that they, the thought process that they put into that product. Yep. Cotton face, made for being printed on. It's not over dyed. The discharge is going to work. They're considering all that stuff. And when you swap out that tag and you do like your own private label tag on the inside, and then you throw your packaging, your finishing items, you make it look retail ready, trust us, nobody knows. We'll also get a little insight here is that some of the largest brands in the world, ones that you see at retail, are being produced by these same mill blank companies. You just don't know about it.
True. Well, yeah, like they've gone through the failures already for you, right? And when you're doing custom, you're going to go through your own failures and trying different things and testing different colors, and they've already done that for you. So, as they say, let someone else fail, and then you learn from it. So,
yeah. I mean, if you're not, an established fashion house, if you're not Gucci,
right.
And by the way, if anybody hasn't seen, Demna from Balenciaga is going to move.
I saw that.
Over to Gucci. I can't believe it. That is an absolute insane move. I don't know what to think about it.
Good move, bad move? I don't know. It's a move.
Yeah, I don't know. I think.
What did I say? Gucci, like, because market share has fallen a little bit.
Yeah, I
they
think
need to bring someone in.
Negative 46% net profit,
wow.
Or however they cash flow, EBITDA, whatever they want to consider in their earnings. But I think he's an interesting take because of like the celebrity element, the Kim and Kanye and all that other stuff. Yeah. But the style is totally off. Like what he's done with Balenciaga is
Balenciaga, yeah.
totally different from what he'll have to do over at Gucci. So, if you're just getting started and you're not Demna, then
Go with
we
Gildan.
highly suggest using a blank product. It's a great idea.
For sure. Agreed.
Okay, so why don't we talk about if maybe you're a little Gucci-esque, maybe not, made it all the way there yet, but you've got some experience. You've been developing products on blanks. You now want to make a silhouette something that doesn't exist in the marketplace. What are the advantages from your end on going custom?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me is revenue, cost, right? So when you're selling on the Gildan blank, you can only sell that piece for so much.
Unless
right?
you're Supreme or something like that. Yeah.
Unless you're
Put
Supreme,
a box.
unless you have a massive brand and a massive following. But even then, you're going to get those comments like, "Damn, this shirt came in. I paid $300 for it.
It's on a Gildan.
It's scratchy. It's on a Gildan. It's choking me out."
Yep.
So only till a certain point you can get there. When you start to go custom, you obviously it's not the Gildan price. It's not that cheap economy price. But then you can also charge for it, right?
Yeah.
So then after you decorate that, after the washes that you're doing and whatever the treatments are, you start to capitalize on the revenue a little bit. That's the first thing that comes to me is the revenue opportunity
Perceived value.
and perceived value.
Yeah.
And actually more valuable.
Yeah.
Right?
There is a perceived value to a cut and sewn product.
For sure.
And I think the internet has made every one of us sourcing experts. And so, I think, the marketplace, young people have a decent eye on, is this, maybe not some of the other ones, some of the nicer mills that we're considering, but, when something is very unique, it has your own buttons, it has your own zipper, you're doing a decoration that can't be done on a pre-constructed garment, then there's definitely a preconceived value that
it actually is one of a kind.
It is one of a kind.
Actually is one of a kind. So the private label, you're using a silhouette that's already out there. You're taking the tag out of there. You're putting your logo inside of there. It's still yours. It's custom, but it's not one of one.
Yeah.
Actually is custom.
Yeah. The other side, we were just talking to a factory yesterday, working on a little project that makes some of the knitwear for Fear of God. And so the other part of the custom side is that you get to develop your own silhouettes. In their case, they make a small look like an extra large. So this garment these are giant. Yeah. They're not oversized. They're behemoth.
Sleeping gown.
Yeah, sleeping gown. Yeah. So you have full control over the fit, full control over the silhouette, full control over the finishings. You can take the material from very, very inexpensive all the way. Our conversation yesterday was about 100%. I don't know if it was Italian cashmere or New Zealand. I don't know where it was, but it was expensive for the marketplace that we serve. So you really have a giant, vast span of what type of material that you could use.
A hack on the pre-constructed already to get to that oversize is order mediums and label them small.
Resize, size up.
Size up. So we do a lot of that. And that's one way to get that oversized look, by just buying a larger size and sizing up the inside tag.
Good hack.
Little secret there for everyone that's listening. So, production doesn't like that again.
Yeah.
We say a lot of shit that production doesn't like. So we heard about that earlier today about samples and stop promoting samples. But same thing. It's hard in production, but doesn't mean it doesn't add value to the brand.
So in regards to going custom, why don't we talk about domestic versus import? And, the obviously perfect timing. We got the Trump tariffs, shaking it up in the world right now. So, what are your thoughts on when would you want to choose a domestic manufacturer and when would you want to, go overseas, or what you like to call domestico?
Yeah. You got domestico for sure. I'm a fan of anything domestic, obviously. We are manufacturers. The price point is something you can never really, can beat. You can never really beat that price, combat that. But it is the price point, that price point that you can do in China or all these other places are starting to offer it as well. That's tough to beat domestically. But the other thing is sometimes you have to take a really big risk on what you're doing overseas, and you might have to do higher MOQs, 1,000 pieces, 2,000 pieces. So you're taking a pretty big risk. Hopefully you're getting samples, getting your hands on samples. But even then, is production going to match the sample? I don't know. You're taking a lot of risk, putting a lot of money out there. I don't know many overseas production facilities that give you terms. You know, pay now, factor up front, and it'll be on the water. Get it when you get it. So there's a lot of risk to that, but also a lot of quality as well over there. But there's some risks. You can control that a little bit better when you're doing it domestically.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that if your speed is most important, if you value speed and least lower minimums, then I would highly suggest paying up a little bit and choosing a domestic factory. Of course, they're all on the West Coast. They're all in LA. There's really, really great cut and sew, or taking a silhouette that they have, and you could do dyes and washes, and you could work a PFD, but then you can customize that PFD a little bit with finishes and so forth. So if speed and getting not only speed but getting low quantities and being able to turn it fast, if you value that, I would definitely lean into the domestic side.
Yeah.
If it is price, then you have to go. I would even outrule Domestico at this point. And Domestico, we say Mexico, Central America, near shoring, I guess is that term. Mm-hmm. That's a great option if you're kind of right smack dab in the middle. I need a little bit of a better price, but I may need a treatment or a finish that isn't done in the U.S. And then lastly, the reason why we would go to China or Portugal or somewhere like that is because that the material is exactly what we want out there. They're dialed in on specialty. Mm-hmm. Portugal does a ton of knitwear, does lots of cottons and dyes, lots of unique treatments and washes. I bought something from a brand called Nude Project that this fabric just doesn't exist here. It only exists in that space. And so if you design something like that, then unfortunately you're going to have to, go to those regions where they're pros at it.
Yep. Yeah. One of the biggest mistakes I see brands make is they just wait too long. You wait too long. And if you wait too long with custom, you kind of, you lose your options. So one thing is getting ahead of it, get that product line approved, and then kick into action. But yeah, you're right. All these different places. I mean, I see a lot of people pulling away from China a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not just because of tariffs and whatever, but just, I don't know, quality and what have you. But even Vietnam, we saw some really awesome some samples that came from Vietnam. So just got to give it time, though.
Yeah.
Don't wait too long.
Yep. Well, I mean, I guess planning is all about building a brand, but hopefully we gave you just, some tidbits on, where to start. Of course, feel free, reach out to us, comment. We want to get our second comment on YouTube this time. So feel free to comment if you think that we may have missed something, or if you have a better suggestion from your end or your experiences, and we'll keep them coming.
Let's go. And that's the pod.
That's it.